You know what I mean? Why do I say you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Of course you do. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm Zaina.
And I'm Zainab.
And welcome back to the Little Ramadan podcast. This is episode 2.
Yeah.
And today's book is going to be Secrets of Divine Love by Helwa.
Quick reminder, we're raising money for charity for Revive to gather donations for shelter in Gaza.
So they're going to, inshallah, raise money for furnished shelters with rugs, mattresses and bedding.
The link will be available on our Instagrams.
Yeah, and down below as well if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah, so please do donate if you can, inshallah. And if you can't, please just share the link.
And Jazakallah to those who have donated already.
Yeah, Jazakallah. We've already hit 1,100. Yeah. When I was in my taxi on the way home from work, literally on Thursday, I was speaking to my driver about the podcast and the fundraiser and whatever. And I usually pay him £40 for my journey from where I am, obviously, to home. And he said, just give me 30 and put £10 for the donation.
Oh,
and I was like, how beautiful. It's just so beautiful. Little moments like that. I was like, oh. So then I did it straight away and I sent him a screenshot and he was like, keep me in your duas. So yeah, always in my duas, everyone. But yeah, that was really cute.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers for Zainab's driver. What's his name?
Uncle Dawood.
Uncle Dawood.
Yeah.
And bless him. I mean.
And
bless all of you who have donated so far as well. So like we said, today's book that we have chosen is Secrets of Divine Love. And I've just picked out one specific section of it to speak about today. And we're kind of going to do like I'm just going to say a reflection and then you're going to let me know your thoughts on it kind of thing.
Yeah, hopefully I got some thoughts because my brain goes blank, really? But yeah, it should be fine.
So I thought we'd talk about seeking a connection with the divine. So I kind of chose this topic last night because I thought, I don't know, it kind of just like this Ramadan, I've been feeling a little bit like I'm doing the motions, I'm praying, I'm doing, my dhikr and everything, but it's another thing to actually feel that connection and a strong connection as well to Allah. So I thought, okay, let's have a read of this section and maybe it will be of benefit to everyone else as well. So then when I read the whole section, all of it was essentially about getting to know Allah. It was about his 99 names, about being God conscious, about everything, having that taqwa. And it was so interesting that came up because I've actually covered that in my little podcast episode with my friend Iman. So shout out to Iman. We actually talked about God consciousness and she was explaining what it is to be God conscious in everything that you do. And it's basically similar to this kind of idea that you just see God in everything.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what I mean by that. Because I think this chapter really fully explains it.
Okay, I'm excited.
About what that means. And then through getting to know Allah, through his names and through seeing him everywhere, that's how you build that connection. Kind of linking it, actually, I'm going to say that later as well.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to pace myself. When you have so much
I love
to say,
it. You're so ready to go.
I was just so ready.
I'm excited. I love it.
Let me just say everything all at once. So before I read out the quote, I kind of want to just go over kind of what I got from it.
Okay.
And then I'll read it and then see if you've got anything to add. How our souls, as people, as humans, we just have this kind of innate yearning within ourselves for a reliance upon something bigger than us. Because we know we're imperfect.
Yeah.
We kind of look to somewhere, whether that be God, for non-Muslims, I don't know, some people kind of look to the universe. Yeah. And then obviously in other religions as well, there's the Hindu gods, and essentially all religions, there's something bigger than ourselves. And it works because that's what our souls are yearning for. It's kind of like what religion does for people, according to psychology.
Yeah.
It's like it provides that sense of, we know that we're imperfect, but it's okay because there's this perfect being or this perfect universe that we can rely on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what makes us not go insane, if that makes sense.
Understand.
Yeah. But obviously we're talking about Muslims. And obviously that perfect being that is beyond ourselves is Allah. We know what the truth is. We already know what Islam teaches. We already know what we have to do.
Yeah.
We know what good deeds are. We know what's going to get us, inshallah, to heaven.
Yeah.
And we're all just getting on with it, really. But very few people, I'd say you're one of them, kind of stop and be like, this is actually really beautiful, and kind of delves deeper into who is Allah.
Yeah.
And why, asking the question why, basically. Why is this our reality? This is a very long chapter, and I could literally read out the entire thing, because all of it is just like mind-blowing. I was just reading it like, what? Whoa!
What page number is it for them?
Page 21. So it's the first part of the first section of the book on Allah and the origin of love. And it's called, the chapter title is How to Have an Intimate Connection with God. Bismillah. The question then becomes, how can we have a relationship with a God who cannot be known, seen, or touched directly? We cannot know God as he is, but we can experience his qualities indirectly through the creations he chose to create. Similar to what happens when light hits a prism and spreads out to unveil the color spectrum. When the light of the name Allah pierces the dense prism of creation, it manifests into the spectrum of divine names. Like white light that carries all colors within its singularity, the name Allah carries the infinite divine names within its oneness. However, since singularity, unity, and oneness cannot entirely be comprehended by the human mind, Allah reflected his singularity into the multiplicity of creation through the manifestation of his divine names. Everything in creation is created from a unique recipe of Allah's names. Similar to how all physical matter is broken apart into chemical elements that are organized into a periodic table, the divine names form a table in the spiritual dimension that allows us to experience an infinite God, one name at a time.
Beautiful.
Isn't that crazy? SubhanAllah. I just really like the whole prism idea, because it kind of like puts into perspective how Allah can be so many things, but he's also one. So I'm going to pause there before I carry on and ask you a little question, Zainab. Was there ever a moment in time you remember reflecting on the purpose of life in this way? How did it make you feel, and what answers did you find, and how did you come to find them?
It's a really deep question. I think we, like you said, we see God as, obviously, we already know when we learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they always say he is one, he is eternal. And we see him in such a positive kind of light, like that prism. I really like the analogy of how the white light is just one, and then the colourful rainbow is all of the 99 names. And I don't, for instance, I don't know all of the 99 names by heart, I must admit, but I think it's beautiful to know that there's different attributes that can relate to what you're going through. So I think we spoke about, what was it,
Al-Wakil
in the last episode, the disposal of affairs. I really resonate with that one. And also Al-Ghafur, forgot what that one stands for.
Forgiver of sins.
Yeah, something like that. But they're all positive attributes that make you feel comforted. And that's how you can get to know him a bit more when you read into it, which I need to read into a bit more, I'm not going to lie.
No, same.
Yeah, because I'd love to know all of them by heart, but I know about the first 15, and then after that, because there's that nasheed, isn't there?
Sami Yusuf. I was
Yeah.
just thinking, I was listening to that on the way here.
Yeah, so that one is like really beautiful because it's got obviously the names and the meanings on the screen.
During what you were saying about how different life experiences, you can kind of match that with Allah's names.
Yeah.
Is there a specific life experience where like an Allah's name, one of Allah's names comes to mind?
Al-Wadud, the most loving, and As-Sabur, the most patient, because firstly, with the most loving, it's like you said, you know that, you know, he is one and he's the higher being. So even when you're so caught up in obviously the worldly life and stuff, you can feel down, you can feel depressed, all sorts of emotions, but you always know that you're loved, and by someone who's never going to stop loving you, no matter your flaws or your imperfections, like you mentioned. And I think that's just so beautiful. And then As-Sabur, because like I said, we're human, so we can make lots of mistakes and we have lots of flaws.
A lot of mistakes.
Yeah, we can be on a roller coaster journey in our life, where sometimes our deen fluctuates, and we may not be as close sometimes, or we may be closer if we're going through something as well. And he's the most patient, so he'll always be patient with us, even if we're taking not obviously taking a step back because we want to. It just happens because he gets into the dunya. Does that make sense?
No, that does
Any
make
of what I'm
sense.
saying?
No, yeah, it does. And it kind of reminds me of what I went on a little bit of a binge watch last night of Honest Tea Talk.
Oh, love that.
It was so sad. I finally brought myself to finish the last season and the last episode, and I was like, no, it can't end here. And I was just like rewatching like season 1 and season 2, and it kind of just reminded me of there was this episode in season 2 I think it was season 2 that they did, and they were talking about something entirely different. They were talking about life after abuse, and she was basically saying how the number one like advice that she'd give to Muslims is to allow for that fluctuation in your faith, because it's supposed to fluctuate. Allah knows.
Yeah.
And that's why one of his names is the most patient.
But then the fluctuations bring you back as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the whole point of it, I feel, because every time you're brought back to Allah.
Yeah. But then we're also tested with patience too.
Yeah.
In our lives, which brings us back to him. So they do link. Does that make sense?
I think everything's linked.
Yeah.
I was just thinking in my head, like, you could just link human qualities in general to Allah's qualities.
Yeah.
We can be patient, we can be loving, we can be kind.
And I guess that, like you saying that, them attributes makes us shape our character, but obviously all of the attributes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, we should all have to be good people
Yeah.
and have a good character,
And
because
it just means that his attributes are divine
yeah,
compared to ours.
exactly. It's beautiful.
So it's kind of connecting to what we've already said about how getting to know Allah's qualities and then kind of being conscious of it every day is how you seek that connection. The more familiar you are with something,
Yeah,
the more kind of attached you are.
I
and the
agree.
more kind of love you feel for that thing. Allah's telling us in the Quran, like, the only thing worth being attached to in that way is him.
But that is the thought that comes to my mind straight away is, we know, like, if you attach yourself to people, you can get hurt. Like, you know what I mean? But the attachment with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so strong that that's never gonna hurt you. Like, it's like we said before, it's the handhold that never lets go.
You're never
It's
going to be
so
disappointed.
strong.
Yeah.
You can rely on it. It's pure 100% reliance. But people, it's like, even in life, people come and go. It's like chapters of your life. People come and go. You're not going anywhere. By the way, this is not a chapter. This is like the whole book. But
I'm the main character.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's the thought that just came to my mind. So I thought that.
No, it's true. And I think it's just interesting that people do that. Like, they attach themselves to humans and then they kind of feel that disappointment when things don't go right, even though it was inevitable, because people aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Something's always going to go wrong. And it's like, you could save yourself from that disappointment, because you're never going to be disappointed if you attach yourself to Allah.
Exactly, and it's that disattachment. And then if we relate it back to obviously this month of Ramadan, it's all about disattaching ourselves from worldly things in life. And then it takes me to something I just thought about the heart and the qalb, and whatever enters the heart is obviously just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else. Because if anything else enters the heart, well, we're going to go on to that in another episode in detail. So I won't say the analogy here, but it just brought up that feeling for me about, keeping your heart clean and pure and not really letting anything come into your heart so much that you get taken into this whole worldly life, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and it kind of reminds me of Dr. Haifa Yunus's Ramadan series, My Dear Heart. I mentioned, actually, no, that was also in the first episode, so I haven't actually mentioned that yet. I've been watching My Dear Heart is a Ramadan series by Dr. Haifa Yunus, and she's basically talking about the heart. The entire series is just everything to do with the heart, and she kind of explains how the heart is like a vase, and the dunya kind of is what makes it dirty, and Allah is what purifies it and makes it clean.
I love that.
And like the more clean it is, the more you can see through it and see Allah. The dirtier it is, the more connections you have to this dunya, the harder it is to see that connection.
That's a really good analogy.
To see that connection with Allah.
It's beautiful.
MashaAllah.
I feel like
that's what it reminded me of.
I love it. I feel like a lot of people talk about that as a topic, to be honest, because it's so important, and everyone has their own kind of analogies of how they view it, but that was beautiful.
I mean, just the fact that she has like a 30-day series based just on the heart, like we could go on.
Yeah, exactly.
We could go on and on of the importance of keeping your heart clean and pure. Yeah.
This is another question.
No, this is kind of a bit of a weird analogy, but like, you know how you were saying there's different ways of like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Have you ever like been told something about something or someone, and when that person has told you that, you can't not see it?
Yeah, 100%. That, for example, let me tell you a weird thing.
Okay.
When I was at university, we always, it's very off topic, weird, but it's something I can't unsee now because I learned about it.
Okay.
It's called a vocal fry. I don't know if I ever told you about the vocal fry.
I've heard of that. Is that when you go like this?
Yeah, it's like, the vocal fry, like the Kardashians, and I always be mindful of who I say, oh, have you heard of the vocal fry before? Because if I tell them, they will never be able to unhear it again.
And now I can hear it in my own voice. Whenever I...
Oh, God, I forgot that I was telling you all of this. I know all of you.
Now you'll never be able to unhear it.
Oops.
Oopsie. No, whenever anyone speaks, that's what you know what a vocal
Just
fry
tell
is.
them to drink plenty of fluids to nourish their vocal cords.
That's that speech and language therapist coming out. Oh my gosh, yeah. So my point was like, I mean, that's a great example that you've brought up there. Now that you said that to me, I didn't have that in my kind of, what's the word?
Lexicon.
I didn't have that in my lexicon. Oh, fancy word. But since you told me about it, I'm now aware of it. And now I can't not hear it. I can't not see it.
Oops.
It's okay. And the same can be applied to Allah's names. Once you are told about the names, once you learn about the names, you can't not see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
But then that's the importance.
But in a good way, not like a vocal fry way. Sorry.
That's the importance of actually taking the time to learn them, though.
Yeah.
And I feel like me being truly honest, I need to take more time to do that. Like I know a few, and you see them every day, but having that knowledge is so important. But something I have been doing, because obviously Ramadan Reflections goes through each 30 days with a name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
What is it?
Yeah, so the one we did obviously was the disposal of affairs. But yeah, so in there you're learning, and then you have to obviously read the dua which embodies his attribute for that chapter, and then you do your dua with his name in mind, that specific name. And But yeah, it's a learning journey.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all on that journey, and we all feel like we can do more, and that's a blessing to have that feeling, because
But
that's
if you
Allah.
didn't have that feeling, then I'd be worried, you know.
Yeah, that's when you should be worried.
Yeah, I think so.
And that kind of links to my next point, is just practice that wherever you go. Everything that you feel, everything that you see, everything that you hear, even if it is vocal fry, you will find Allah there. Because how can you not be there? He is everything.
Exactly.
Subhanallah. Just thinking about the people of Gaza, our brothers and sisters who are currently not even receiving enough aid in the crisis that they're going through right now. And of our brothers and sisters in Sudan, in Congo, in China, everywhere, basically. SubhanAllah, even looking at their situation, especially with the people in Palestine, actually,
Yeah.
and you look at them saying, they're still saying, Allah is sufficient for me. It's like, even in situations like that, you can still see Allah.
And that's their God consciousness
That's
shining
the God-
through.
yeah. There was this one video of this man who, in Gaza, they managed to go back to a broken down building where his brother passed away, and they were going through the they had the bodies in like body bags, and he was asking the man, he was describing his brother to him to see if they could identify the body, and he opened one of the body bags and he found, and it was his brother. Like, he managed to identify his brother, and in that moment he was just like, Alhamdulillah, 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 being like, you know, this is Allah's doing. Simply because Allah helped him find the body of his deceased brother, and he's saying Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So
Subhanallah.
SubhanAllah, you can, we've got to look at that and think, SubhanAllah, yes, God is everywhere, even in devastation, even when it feels like evil and suffering are just everywhere, Allah is also there. So if I were to give any kind of advice to you guys that you would take from this episode, let it be to learn the names of Allah and practice God consciousness when you're just going about your everyday life, really. I also kind of wanted to throw in another book onto our bookshelf. That wasn't actually part of the plan, but it should have been. I went through all of my books on the top shelf, and I found Sukina Noor's Love and Longing, Yearning for the Face of God poetry book collection. If you don't know who she is, why? Google her now. Sukina Noor, she is an incredible poet, and I went to go see her perform. Got my book signed.
Girl.
She's amazing, mashallah, and I can't believe that it's just been sitting on my shelf this whole time.
It looks brand new.
It basically is, to be honest. It wasn't that long ago. It was about
It's beautiful
only
though.
like 2-3 years ago now.
I love it.
Wow. Okay, 2-3 years is a while.
Yeah. No, thanks.
I was going to say 2-3
You
months.
just
No,
look
it's
after
been
your
2-3 years.
books. I don't.
Really?
Mine are
It's
wearing.
because I haven't really like gotten into this, but I've been getting into.
It's.
this the
I
past few
feel
days,
like
this
it's
past
a
week.
type of book probably you can just pick up whenever and just flick to a page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the amount of poems that are in this book, subhanallah, it's really like, I don't know, it's very intense, very spiritual. So if you're like a spiritual girly or guy, sorry, definitely you'd enjoy this poetry collection. But I was just reading, I've just been reading a poem like a day. So I was just reading this poem, and obviously I'm not going to read it all out, but it kind of linked so well to the topic that we're talking about. So I kind of wanted to throw it in there a little bit. So if you do have this book, it's page 16, it's and 17 as well. I'm just going to read World of Forms first a little bit, and then I'll go on to the poem. But this is not, it's like more of a prose piece on this side. I don't know, am I allowed to read it all out? Is that like copyright?
I mean, maybe just read like the end part. I think she put a few questions in there
Yeah.
when I read them. And I really like that.
Okay, so we're going to go for the middle part then.
Yeah.
Just surrender, beloved. Just surrender. If everything were perfect, would we turn to him empty-handed in the depths of the night? How would we know light if we didn't experience darkness? How would we know joy if we didn't taste sorrow? How could we appreciate companionship if we didn't sit with solitude? And how would we value life if we didn't witness the ruthlessness of death? All are signposts pointing to the majesty and beauty of God. Being conscious of the fingerprint of the Most High in every moment opens the possibility for us to dwell in the abode of eternal nearness all the time. What a comforting thought. I love how she said, what a comforting thought at the end.
You do just feel comforted.
It's comforting, it's security, it's going back to that safety.
It is the safety blanket, the warm, big hug. That's how I describe it.
Holding of the hand.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this poem is called I Love You. And it's essentially about, just to summarize it quickly, it's basically about Sukina saying how much she loves God, because it's like, okay, I'll just read a little bit and you'll see.
Yeah.
I love you because I know you hold within you his greatest secret. You just don't know it. I only just found out. The breath of God in your essence is a doorway to his presence. And he is present right now. We are exactly where we are supposed to be. And then it goes on to say, essentially, before everything that happens in life, before Adam alayhi salam, before Eve, before everything that happens, this moment was written. And then towards the end of the poem, she says, he is the cause and the cure, the before, and the after evermore. Before that cold December morning, when God spoke through him to me and invited me on a journey over the hedges of make-believe into the meadow of reality. I am here, right here. Do you not want to know me? I was a hidden treasure, and I wanted to be known. Do you not want to know me? All signs pointed to Rabbil Alameen. Before I dared to claim my existence, this moment was written.
SubhanAllah.
It's like
beautiful
powerful stuff. I don't like the way she writes is so concise. I just love like her poems, mashallah. She's really,
I'll definitely be getting the book.
yeah, love and longing, yearning for the face of God. And I'm actually going to touch on that next, is this idea of the face of God. Because obviously we don't actually mean God's face.
No.
In the sense that everyone is probably thinking right now. And the reason why it connected so well to what this chapter that I'm reading from is saying is because there's literally a whole paragraph that explains this whole idea of the face of God. It says, here the word face does not mean God has a face like a human being, because God is formless and beyond time and space. The word face in this verse is metaphorical and refers to God's essence and how it is mysteriously reflected in all of creation. Allah's omnipresence in all things is reiterated when the Quran says, he is the first and the last, and the outward and the inward, and he has knowledge of everything. So, yeah, subhanAllah, it's basically saying what we've been talking about this entire episode, is how you can literally just look
Anywhere.
Like, I could literally just be looking at your glasses and think of, he's the all-seeing.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
It's that easy, guys.
The all giving when I'm looking at the orange and mango juice that you're going to have when you break your fast.
Guys, this is such a Ramadan staple, is it not?
Yeah, and if you know, guys, tropical juice, sun pride, don't get me started.
Huh?
Do you know tropical juice, sun pride in Ramadan? Oh,
What, sun pride?
she doesn't know, guys.
Sorry.
I'll have to. Dad used to get it for Ramadan every year.
Really?
It's like the best drink ever. I'll have to get you a bottle. Well,
Is it mango lassi?
No.
Okay.
Mango lassi is good though.
It is. We used to have it all the time before we went dairy free.
Yeah.
We don't have it anymore.
What about, have you tried it with like dairy free milk?
We haven't tried making it. No, we should though.
Yeah, try it.
I feel like that would be nice. Anyway, Let me get my notes up. So,
I don't know if it fits in here, but I was thinking about like just randomly about risk.
yeah.
And how everything's just written for you, like even the bite of food that you have, or like for example an apple in a store, everything that you buy. Isn't it cool though? Have you ever thought that when you go to the supermarket, the exact thing you pick up has your name on it?
Whoa.
But then it might actually not be for you. You might take it home and give it to someone else, so it actually has someone else's name on it.
Subhanallah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why that came in my head, but it just made me think of probably there's a name or attribute that goes with that.
Probably, yeah. There we
There
go.
definitely
Challenge
is.
for you guys.
Yeah, find the
a
name.
that goes with that. That would be such a cool activity to give to kids.
Yeah, find the
Like,
name.
Find Allah's name in this situation or this activity.
But then they'd probably name any because they all
Yeah, to
go
be
with
fair,
any situation.
you
really.
could pretty much. Yeah. I like that. Thank you. Well, that's pretty much it, to be honest.
That's really beautiful and insightful conversation, to be honest.
Final thoughts. I would say my final thoughts are literally just 99 names of Allah. Get to know them. And that's how you're going to build that connection with Allah. Saying that you want a connection and then actually thinking, okay, how? Practically speaking, how? This is how.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to take on board as well for my personal growth.
What are your final thoughts?
Really gaining knowledge about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can, like even beyond just the names, but even what you're reading when you're reading the Quran or when you're listening to the Quran, what is it actually saying?
Yeah.
So just making more time to build on your knowledge, to deepen that connection.
Inshallah.
And making the time for it as well, because one final thing, like I think it was from Honesty Talk or something I listened to, they were talking about how, like you said, we go through the motions and we just pray and we do all the things we're supposed to do, but how many of us just pray without rushing it, and having to feel like, oh, I need to pray quickly so I can get back to work? How many people actually pray just to pray?
Actually take the time out and
Yeah.
give it the time it deserves.
Instead of making obviously your like work the center, how many of us actually place prayer and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the center of the life?
Yeah. Instead of in your head thinking, oh, I gotta finish my prayers so I can eat. Oh, I gotta finish eating so I can pray.
Yeah, so changing
It's
the
like,
narrative.
why are you giving your time? I mean, obviously you don't rush your food either, because alhamdulillah, Allah's blessed you with food. But give prayer the
Priority.
that it deserves, because that's why we're on this planet. That's the only thing that we're going to take with us when we die. Not to be like morbid.
No, it's true.
But it's true. And also to relate it back to Umar Sulaiman's, I don't know if you've been keeping up with his Ramadan series all about the Barzakh. He was literally saying how in the grave your good deeds are going to take a form and wake you up and be like, I'm here, I'm your good deeds. Which is kind of freaky to think about.
It is.
But everything is so exact. Everything that you do, everything, like all the ibadah, all the worship, it's all adding up. And it is going to come back to you.
It will, essentially. And that will determine, obviously, the hereafter for us all, inshallah.
Inshallah.
But, yeah.
Anyways, we've gone on long enough. Just going to end off with a quick dua. My Lord, help me surrender all that I am so that I can receive all that you seek to give me. Allah, help me to lay down the burden of doubt and to walk freely in faith, trusting that your plans for me will always be greater than my greatest dreams. Allah, forgive me for the mistakes I have made and the mistakes I will make. My Lord, please remind me that your goodness will always be greater than my faults, and that your love will always be greater than my shame. O Allah, shine your light upon me so that my eyes can awaken to your truth, and so that my heart can be illuminated by the reflection of your beauty. In your sublime names, I pray. Ameen. So yeah, quick reminder to donate what you can then, inshallah. Link is in the description. And yeah, we'll see you next week, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay.